Mini Jake, the tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. JJ and I are here to conclude Season 3 of Invincible. So, pretty wild season. I don't want to say all over the place, but it was definitely, again, juggling a lot of plot lines, and it went very all over the place between them. But then it did end up concluding with a really solid, 3-episode stretch at the end that I thought was really fun. So,
Yeah, I don't think that's an unfair assessment. I mean, this season, and I'm going to talk about this more once we get to the, I think it was the 5th episode, maybe the 6th. But this season, more than anything else, has felt the most comic booky, where there are all of these things happening and just hints and crumbs of these other things to come. And I think that's a perfect way to build a comic book series, plot lines you can't even build on, because that's just what a comic book universe is. But it's still at least focused enough on Invincible that it doesn't feel like the MCU, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know, Invincible manages to go routes that I wouldn't even think about and then still feel like I'm kind of just going and learning about the characters, and that's the important part to me. Let's kick it off. So we'll go from episode 4 through 8. Obviously, if you missed our first 3 episodes coverage from a month ago, you can go back and watch that and then watch this, but here we go, episode 4. So, the main plot point here is that Alan and Omni-Man escape from prison, and they get Battle Beast out, and they start destroying Viltrumites, which is pretty interesting, pretty fun. I did love this sequence at the end of episode 4.
I thought that this was a really great episode, and I loved all the fighting. But, in the context of the season, it feels weird. Just because I expected that Omni-Man and or Alan, thank you.
Yeah,
I kept wanting to say Marvin in my head, and I'm like, no, that's Looney Tunes. But Omni-Man and Alan were going to come to Earth. I expected that to happen at the end of the season. It was that had been built up to, and then it was a letdown that it didn't happen. Seeing Battle Beast come back though, and him fighting Viltrumites, it's just a really good fight scene, really well designed.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with all those points. Alan and Omni-Man not coming back at the end, I definitely thought that was how the Conquest fight was going to go, that was going to get stopped. Omni-Man was just going to come and you're going to see his fist coming from behind or something, or I don't know, just something of that nature. And it was a little disappointing in some ways for sure that didn't happen. But also in terms of what happened in that Conquest finale that we'll get to later, there was some other good stuff that happened instead. But I do think that they should have shown up at the end still. So
yeah, I was definitely expecting him to be the safe, not Eve.
Yeah, that was crazy. We'll get to that. But yeah, this was really fun to watch. I mean, any other thoughts on episode 4? As for what else happened in that episode besides this?
Nah, not really.
Yeah, I think that was the main point of that episode. Episode 5, so we do get to see, I mean, Eve and Mark are basically going for a job, and leads to Mark guarding the prison. And this is where we get the return of Titan, Mahershala Ali, returning, and we also get the dragon. I don't know the character's name, but we get him and Machine Head as well as in this. So, I mean, let's talk about that dragon. I think the dragon looks cool. The fight was cool. But also I was expecting that they were just going to kill off the Man by the end. I was a little bit disappointed when it got to like the little credit scene at the end that they're just going to keep him alive still. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that arc was going to get resolved by the end of the episode. Definitely, I think that the point of that was to hint at other things and to set up the structure for what's going on in New York.
Yeah.
Like saying that his power comes from another reality, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
Definitely fighting a dragon at a prison, the most comic booky thing that's happened so far.
Yep. Yeah.
This episode also feels out of place, sort of, because like they aren't tying in these threads. The crime boss is tying that in back into the storyline. It's cool that you're developing that, but why are you developing that if there's not a payoff for it? Why are we dedicating an entire episode of time to this when you're just going to drop it and focus on other things for the rest of the season? So in that way, it's really starting to feel all over the place here. Good storylines, cool things, but like just not tied together.
Right. I agree. I mean, the one connection that the Dragon Man is also trying to free Multiple, Kate's brother, who is also voiced by Simu Liu. So, I mean, that was cool in itself. I believe this episode has the scene of him like trying to escape and Eve like blocks him in, and like, I don't know, like there was some cool stuff in there. Is this also the episode where he like, or was it last episode where he like tries to escape, or he escapes out of the cell by like multiplying himself so much that he breaks down the door? Like,
yeah, that was pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
That props to that for sure.
Yeah, that was a good sequence. So gross, but
I do also like what a good way to capitalize on superpowers, putting yourself on retainer for a prison or really anything, any entity that would just want a superhero on retainer.
Right, exactly. Anything else on episode 5? All right. Episode 6 is where I think like this stretch of these last 3 episodes is really good. This is a pretty dark storyline, but a really good one. This is with Power Plex, Aaron Paul voicing Power Plex. And this is a tragic character, a guy that lost everything because of Invincible and Omni-Man fighting in Chicago. It was Chicago, yeah. And just like because he lost everything, he wants Invincible to have that justice needs to be done. So he's going to take matters into his own hands. And despite all the warning signs of like trying to get his family out, his insistence on this ends up having him kill his own family.
Yeah. The storyline was tragic and impactful for sure. And the comparison of like his blame for Invincible versus Invincible's self-blame was really well designed to flesh out more of that internal struggle that Mark has been dealing with. Getting Aaron Paul and Simu Liu and like we're going to talk about Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I just absolute stellar cast for these side characters for this season.
Yeah. I loved the voice cast. I feel like Invincible has knocked it out of the park every season, but like because I already had like some stellar voice actors, but like yeah, they went and knocked it out of the park for this one. So
They really, really did.
But like, and just like the uniqueness as well as of Power Plex's powers, where you hit him so that he gains more power, like that's something really, really cool because obviously we see a lot of these heroes are physically hitting each other. So having
Yeah.
a character that gets more powerful, the more that happens is really, really cool.
It finally takes out the element of superpowered beings just evolving into a fist fight.
Right.
Which, like, fist fights, I understand are what we understand because that's what we do. But at the same time, when you could shoot, lightning and whatnot, why do you need to punch things?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And like there were definitely moments where I thought, okay, well, is he gonna end up like killing Eve or something? Like someone else is gonna die because of this. And then I was like, okay, it's gonna be his family. And then I didn't expect that it was gonna get so gruesome that it showed his wife and baby, like their corpses. Like that was extremely gruesome.
Yeah. Yep. It's nice that he started on a redemptive arc
Mhm.
when he was helping fight the alternate dimension marks.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was cool in the next episode for sure. Anything else on Powerplex or episode 6?
I just having like the sorry, I'm struggling with the words. Him having his powers, but being a relatively weakly powered individual, and then using GDA technology was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we're quite done with that idea yet. I'm sure that Cecil has a way of just using everything to his advantage. So I'm sure we'll see that technology come back.
Yeah, I really enjoyed as well. Like this season isn't until the end where Mark finally does end up asking Cecil for help in the last episode, but just like a season where Mark isn't relying on Cecil and the GDA to do things because they had this falling out. Like I feel like that's pretty nice to like not have that to rely on.
Yeah, it is. It is nice getting away from the GDA a little bit. That gave them more time to develop some of these other things. And it kind of gives us like it really sets the GDA more as what it is, which is sort of this organization in the shadows.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, episode 7 is the Invincible War, which we had already seen that they were bringing back Einstrom once again, and that was going to culminate with this Invincible War. And unfortunately, this meant we had to say goodbye to Rexplode. And this I liked Rex by like by season 2, and I was fully on board Rex as one of my favorite characters, and so like to have him be like this character that everybody likes now and to kill him off is just really, really sad.
Yeah, I didn't like him in season 2 yet. I finally did start to like him in this season. I really did. I'm going to be honest. I'm not convinced he's dead.
Yeah.
He got shot in the head. He came back. I know he got exploded. His skeleton exploded. I understand that. But, comic books and this show in particular, just they have a way of bringing back the dead characters somehow.
Yep. I mean, we've seen that. We're literally going to see that in the finale. So it's just like, I totally get that. And we definitely had like Rex still surviving, being shot in the head by the Lizard League. And then like, I don't know. Like, I totally get that. And I mean, in a way, I guess they'll technically be able to have him back because if Rudy is now Rex, then
yeah, I didn't really care for that. I don't much appreciate when people take time at a funeral to say, "I'm gonna do this thing." Like, I understand the sentiment and I understand like the way of honoring someone, but at the same time, it also kind of feels like you're making it about you in that moment.
Yeah.
I did appreciate. I really did ship Rex and Ray, though.
Yes.
That was a cute storyline, and I did appreciate following the tangent of like, well, I really need to just retire from the superhero life at this point.
Right. And Rex choosing not to just retire ended up killing him. So
but it's what he knew. It's what he knew, and he truly did have a redemption.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe this Rey storyline wasn't a thing in the comics. I believe in the comics she was canonically killed by the Lizard League in that moment, and they decided to extend her storyline for this Rex storyline, obviously to give his story more. So, which I get. So, because I was like, I feel like Rey should have definitely died last season, but now having seen what that ended up coming to, I get it.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll see more of her
Yeah.
as we go on. I'm sure that she'll probably be in the reserves with, especially after this, so many heroes being killed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about like, yeah, so all these different Invincibles and like everything going on. So you had an Omni-Man mark, you had all these different marks. I mean, did you have an Invincible that was like the most interesting to you from an alternate dimension?
Yeah, I'm looking this back up. I did appreciate the one who was like in a Viltrumite prison for a while. The Mohawk guy, he was annoying.
Yeah.
I didn't like his personality at all.
Yeah.
The names were bad. Like if you had, especially if you had your subtitles on, then it would say their names when they were speaking lines, and it was all just variations of Invincible. Some of them like terribly shoehorned in, trying to mash the words together where they really, really didn't fit. Seeing the subtle differences in costumes was nice, though. And I think that like Mark's blue and black costume against now all these yellow and blue ones was kind of nice to see. I like that showed me, oh, I'm used to his new costume now at this point, even though I didn't quite like it at first.
Right. I agree with that. And like even having the Omni-Man Invincible be the one to almost kill Eve, like I legitimately was scared that she was gonna die there.
Yep.
So,
Yep. I was scared this season a few times that Eve was going to die. And I thought that would have been a really powerful story writing decision for them to have made.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
I'm not saying I want her to die.
Right.
But I am a little irritated that she didn't die when it seemed like she was dead.
Right. A couple times here. Yeah. Yeah. I did want to mention, because I forgot to mention this during the Power Plex, but the moment when he's going on the giant speech and the Invincible title card keeps coming up every time he says Invincible. That was so funny.
You know, that was cheeky and clever the first couple of times, but it got really old really fast. This whole shtick with Invincible that they've done from the beginning, I have mixed feelings on it. Sometimes I really like it. Sometimes I hate it so much.
I don't think it was necessarily clever, but it was just funny them deciding to use it in this way.
Yep. And then finally getting to where it's staying on screen.
All right. Anything else now from the Invincible War episode? I mean, we did have the fight with Angstrom and
this, I think, was the worst case of this season being all over the place for me. Because Angstrom Levy felt like he had been being built up to. This was the overarching plot throughout the season. And then he was in, and then he was out within the episode.
Right.
And it's like, in a comic book format, this makes sense when you're doing issues of comic books, and it's like these small self-contained units. But when it's in a TV show, it feels like really that storyline should have been drawn out over 2 episodes. I mean, they did this whole thing where they were like day 1, day 5, whatever, and that was really cool. I liked that aspect of it.
Right.
You very easily could have spent more time on these individual days and like followed more people's storylines throughout this. Like maybe you could have gone back to Titan for part of this and see on a smaller scale level how this is working out, tie in some of your other storylines. I don't think that going to Conquest in the next episode was necessarily needed.
Yeah, I get that, because it was kind of all of a sudden Conquest is here. I will say, at least with Conquest, they did kind of tease it for 2 seasons, like here and there, but it was not like something that was teased at the beginning of the season as like, okay, this is what is going to close out season 3. So I get that.
Yeah, and I'm not upset that Conquest came into the season because that was clearly designed to be part of the show. Like you said, they teased it a few times. It's just that Angstrom Levy's storyline was cut too short. And I know we're not done with him either. I don't know what these beings that he's working for now are. It just was short. Just short.
Yeah, because like, I mean, that fight was cool with like Mark like just being able to like stop himself from sliding back into the portal with like the little drone things, and being able to just like have that decision where he feels he has no choice now but to actually try to finish the job, as Oliver says, to kill Angstrom. But then obviously that doesn't work, and he ends up just tearing off Angstrom's arm. So
I do appreciate when the fight is able to be put into like a different lose condition, and still have stakes. Like, it's silly, the idea that we're going to have this really tense scene of someone trying to avoid getting pushed, basically.
Right.
But it's still really well made, and it's like, it's not a fist fight. It's not people with superpowers, like in unrealistic states, trying to fight each other back and forth. Can Mark stop himself from being pushed into this portal?
Right. I agree. All right, we ready to hit our finale of season 3?
Yeah.
So I know you wanted to talk about Jeffrey Dean Morgan here as Conquest. So what did you think?
Yeah, so weirdly similar to Negan. And then there were these pop-out moments where like talking about eating your heart and stuff like that really was like, yeah, this dude is a Viltrumite. He's not human. Like, these things that he talks about don't feel human, don't feel relatable, and are uncomfortable to hear. And those are really good. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was a great cast for this role. He really was.
Yeah.
Hitting on the Walking Dead theme more. And I know I do this a lot, but I mean, there are a lot of parallels to the show. And I mean, same writer for the comics and everything.
Right.
But having Stephen Yeun voicing Invincible, who played Glenn in Walking Dead, and then Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who was Negan in Walking Dead, and reversing the roles here, like towards the end of this, where Mark is beating Conquest to a pulp. Like in Walking Dead, Negan kills Glenn by beating his head in with a baseball bat.
Wow.
So like the flip of that is pretty neat, cross-show dynamics.
Yeah, that is actually really, really cool. And it's so interesting to think about with, like, again, Robert Kirkman getting his actors into his other, like, passion project of Invincible. So,
yeah, there's a joke on CinemaSins during the very first episode where you had the Guardians of the Globe that it seems like there was a Walking Dead quota to fill because all these Guardians of the Globe characters were different Walking Dead actors. Ross Marquand, though, he's come back for several different characters throughout. So
for sure. Yeah, I mean, just Conquest, the way he was able to just once again, like Omni-Man did in season 1, just like take Mark through all this carnage, like hold him and like fly through people. Like, again, that's just like crazy visual. And then just like the fact, again, Conquest almost kills Mark himself, almost kills Eve, almost kills Oliver. Like, you're getting all these like horrifying scenes of like how much pain this guy can cause. Like,
I think from a story writing perspective, it would have been more impactful if he had killed one of them. Because this is, like Cecil says, this is the legitimately most powerful superhuman he has ever seen.
Right.
Ever. And I understand Adam Eve. I get what happened there. Fine, I'll buy the explanation. But like Oliver, maybe like this would have been a reasonable way to kill off that character and been especially impactful for Mark in him ultimately making this decision to commit himself to killing.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, throughout the season, he's, trying to teach Oliver not to do it, and Oliver in some ways shouldn't be doing it, but in other ways at this point, because of the threats they face, like it is necessary at this point. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is really cool though. Invincible fighting with broken arms and legs and stuff, and just keeping on going. I did really appreciate that.
Yeah, leading to him headbutting Conquest so much till it's like over. But I mean, unfortunately, again, we do get a couple more scenes of characters surviving when you think they're gone. I mean, in a good way, I'm glad Adam Eve did not die, obviously, because I want to see more of her and Mark. I always have thought they should be together since season one, and so I love that they're together now. And I do remember because they did set it up. They had an Adam Eve special in the beginning of season two. So they did set up like what Eve's powers are, that she did have this power that she didn't use because I can't remember the specific explanation. I don't know if you can, but it was something like she can't use this power too often unless she's pushed to the brink, I think.
Yeah, so like there were blocks put in place when she was experimented on. And I don't know what the specific triggering conditions for her those to disappear are. To be honest, like the pacing of the Adam Eve special was so slow that it was hard for me to stay interested in it. And I fell asleep during it. I do need to go back and watch it, especially at this point now. This has me more interested in seeing it. But I didn't get too far into it, so I don't quite remember.
Yeah, I watched it when it came out, but I remember that this was teased in that, but I don't remember everything specific that happened in that special either.
Yeah, I mean, the wording she used where I can literally rearrange matter.
Yeah.
Like we need to nerf that power. Let's be realistic. Otherwise she could just do anything. But at the same time, it seems like she could do more than she does.
Yeah.
Changing the air pressure, the air density, that was crazy. That was an amazing way to use her power. I also really appreciated like a very reasonable limit on her powers too, is that we saw her getting tired from doing things like that.
Right.
Like that's a great way to explain why she doesn't do these really intense things all the time.
Right. And because like often, even in the Invincible War, like she keeps putting up these bubble shields instead of using her powers more, and it does almost get her killed by Omni-Man Mark. But like also, if she did do it, then it might have caused way more carnage. So so it was really, really interesting. And like I said, Oliver like getting most of his teeth knocked out and then almost getting pulled apart. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, he spit out so many teeth.
Yeah. Well, and again, it reminds it's like in the end of season one when Omni-Man punched all of Mark's teeth out. Like at the end of that season.
There were just a lot of parallels this episode. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like this whole thing I think is designed to kind of be a reflection of that fight that Mark had with Omni-Man.
Right. Anything else from this finale? I mean, in terms of like summing up season 3 or what you're looking forward to in season 4, because I believe this did get confirmed for a season 4 renewal.
I would be surprised if it hadn't. Do you remember what happened with Damien Darkblood? Because I remember him being in season 1, but I remember him investigating, but like I don't like it feels like he'd been shunned or something.
Yeah, so I remember that he got caught by Omni-Man, and then Omni-Man went to Cecil and basically like ratted him out in a way, or made it so that him and Cecil banished Damien Darkblood. And I think Cecil did it because he didn't want Damien to like get in the way of how he was trying to use that situation. And so they like banished him to like back to the demon realm or something, and so that's where we see him in this credits scene. So
looking at season 4 though, there are so many threats that we have that could now be pulled on. I'm hoping we see Aaron Paul's character come back. I really want to see him come back. but we've got this thing with Conquest's body now being like controlled.
Yeah.
We've got Angstrom Levy's people, whoever those people are. Machine Head's back, and that organization now seems like more tangible as a threat. The dragon dude saying wherever his powers came from, that felt ominous. I feel like they're going to dig into that more at some point.
Right.
We've got Alan and Omni-Man who have yet to come back.
Right. Yeah.
So just all these threads that might show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm very interested to see how this goes. You even got like smaller storylines, like what's going to happen with Debbie and Paul. Like, I mean, are they, because now they're together, or like, you know, other smaller characters, like, I mean, Kate and Immortal are now retired as well. And what's going to happen there, and with Kate and Paul as well, brother and sister. Like, there's a lot of other things they can probably touch on. I don't know, like, I know there's a lot of different like issues, or there's a few compendiums of like all their stories, so I know there's like probably a lot more left to tell, but
speaking of the Immortal, sorry, it froze for me for a moment. Finish your thought.
No, yeah, you froze for me, so I wasn't sure.
Speaking of Immortal and Duplicate, I would really like to see Mark take Cecil up on his offer and helm the Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah, I would find that interesting for Mark to do as well. I feel like that was kind of where that was leading to eventually, was that Mark was going to come back around and do that, but I guess we'll see with that. I mean, and I'm sure we'll see more of Titan. That's going to go in hand with the Machine Head stuff. So, other than that, I mean, I'm trying to think of any other storylines like I feel like they're gonna touch up on, or other characters other than what we've already mentioned. But
so I was almost surprised. I know I'm digging more into what I just said, but I thought Cecil was going to suggest that Mark just run the Guardians of the Globe independently of the GDA. I don't see him doing that, but it does make me wonder what will be the instigating factor that leads Mark to work with Cecil again.
Right.
He's already stepped way more into the camp towards Cecil with this now commitment to, I am going to kill.
Right.
I'm sure that there will be something, like maybe we're going to see his slide further and further towards Cecil's side of things.
Yeah, I can see that at this point. I feel like, because that was all about, okay, Mark's not going to stoop to the level that Cecil went to, but now he has committed to doing that. So, like you said. So, all right. Well, that's season 3 of Invincible. So yeah, if you guys have any feedback, listeners, like, let us know what you think of season 3, what's coming up. Give us some comic knowledge if you have that as well, because we're very open to finding stuff out that we didn't know from the comics. And we'll be back in a couple of days for our Daredevil season 2 review, and then wrap that up with Defenders and season 3, and then get into Born Again. So that's where we're leaning. Anything else you wanted to mention, JJ?
Nope.
All right. Well, with that, we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.